Good morning. My name is Jack Kerfoot, and the title of my podcast today is Oregon has an energy vision, but does our state have an energy plan? On March 2016, Governor Kate Brown signed Senate Bill 1547, which was hailed by some as visionary legislation. Bill 1547 requires the state's two largest utilities, Portland General Electric and Pacific Power, to stop buying electrical power from coal-fueled power plants by 2030, in less than 13 years. Oregon legislatures are currently discussing a carbon tax, relegating fossil fuel, coal, natural gas, and oil to the same category as tobacco, carbonated beverages, and alcohol. Oregon legislatures clearly have a vision which includes green or renewable energy. But do they have a plan to implement this vision? In my opinion, Oregon should develop a comprehensive 20-year energy plan. Why 20 years? Well, first, Oregon is experiencing rapid growth, which will create increased strain on our utility power plants. Second, the demand for electric vehicles, or EVs, is growing rapidly. Mainstream automobile companies like Toyota, BMW, GM, Honda, Ford, Nissan, Saab project rapid growth in the EV market over the next 5 to 10 years. EVs will shift the demand from gasoline and diesel to the utility power plants. Generally, or currently, EVs use 20 to 30% of the electricity of a home. The current population growth and the forecast electronic vehicle growth has the potential to increase electricity demand in Oregon by more than 50% over the next 10 years. Is Oregon prepared for this increase in demand? In my opinion, the answer is no. Now, there's no perfect energy solution. Any energy option will always have positive and negative components. If you move from the least expensive fuels, which are coal and natural gas today, electricity costs will increase, which will impose a hardship on the financially distressed. If we continue to use fossil fuels, we will negatively impact our air quality and also contribute to global warming. Oregon and the world are faced with an energy conundrum. Well, what can we do? First, we can recognize that fossil fuel, although inexpensive today, will not last forever. At some point in the not-too-distant future, mankind will deplete the world's supply of fossil fuel. The only practical option is to begin to develop new, cost-effective power energy sources and develop them now. Second, let's look at another alternative energy source, which is nuclear. Unfortunately, nuclear power plants are no longer cost-effective. The cost, measured in dollars per kilowatt hour, for electricity from a new-build nuclear power plant is currently projected to be at least 5 to 10 cents per kilowatt hour more than electricity from wind farms. The cost is the primary reason the number of nuclear power plants in the United States have declined from 132 to 100 over the past 20 years. The cost for new-build nuclear power plant in Oregon would be further increased due to the amount and intensity of seismic activity in the Pacific Northwest. In my opinion, disposal of nuclear waste and the risk of power plant accidents also eliminates nuclear energy from Oregon's future as a power source. Third, Oregon is rich in some, but not all, renewable energy. Oregon has excellent hydroelectric, geothermal, and wind energy potential. Oregon doesn't have significant solar potential like many of the southern states. If cost is an important factor, and it should be, then our focus should be on reliable, cost-effective energy sources which do not pollute the environment. I would recommend the following energy program for Oregon. 1. Immediately begin conversion of coal-fueled power plants to natural gas. This could be done relatively quickly and would reduce carbon emissions. Please recognize that natural gas has 30% less carbon emissions than coal. Objections, of course, will be raised because natural gas is a fossil fuel. However, the conversion from coal to natural gas can be usually completed within 2 years. I do not want to wait until 2030 to see carbon emissions to be reduced. I want to see our state make continuous progress in reducing carbon emissions. 2, let's encourage the utilities to pursue hydroelectric projects. Hydroelectric projects have the lowest carbon footprint of any green energy and offers the lowest electricity cost of any renewable energy. Of course, objections will be raised because hydroelectric plants will destroy the free-flowing river ecosystems. This objection must be weighed against the higher cost of electricity from other renewable types. It's also important to recognize that it is essential to have a diversity of fuel sources due to the inconsistency in nature. The winds do not always blow, there are periods of drought, and we have, certainly in Oregon, many cloudy days. Let's encourage energy companies to pursue geothermal power projects. Oregon has significant geothermal potential. What is of interest is that 2 of the 5 largest geothermal power plants in the world are in California. In fact, the largest geothermal power plant in the world is in Northern California. Oregon can provide tax incentives to encourage energy companies to make significant capital investments to find and develop geothermal energy. What's the potential for geothermal? Well, in the 1970s and 1980s, the geysers, the largest geothermal power plant in the world, provided 80% of the electrical power for the entire Bay Area. So geothermal potential could be very significant for our state. Number 4, let's proactively support the development of both onshore and offshore wind farms in the region. Currently, there are 26 offshore wind farms in the world. 10 in Germany, 10 in the United Kingdom, 3 in Denmark, 2 in Belgium, and 1 in the Netherlands. Electricity costs from the newest wind farms are now only 2 to 4 cents per kilowatt hour more than the electricity from coal fuel power plants. Winds offshore tend to blow with more intensity and more consistency than onshore or on land. The potential energy produced from wind is directly proportional to the cube of the wind speed. A small increase of wind speed can produce a significantly greater amount of electricity. As an example, wind turbines today can produce 50% more electrical power with an average wind speed of 16 miles an hour compared to an average wind speed of 14 miles an hour. So only a 2 mile an hour wind speed differential offers a 50% increase in electrical power. In the United States, 1 onshore wind farm is currently under construction offshore of Rhode Island. And New York is aggressively pursuing offshore wind farms at this very moment. In fact, 1 offshore wind farm license has already been awarded by the federal government approximately 200 miles offshore of New York. New York's long-term goal, is to basically significantly increase or start and increase the amount of offshore wind farms, ultimately to replace nuclear power plants which are scheduled to be decommissioned over the next 5 to 10 years. Well, fine, but what's the offshore wind potential for Oregon? Well, actually, the strongest winds in the continental United States are offshore Oregon and Northern California. The average wind speed in offshore Oregon and Northern California is in excess of 22 miles an hour, which is 3 to 7 miles an hour higher than the offshore regions of Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York. So why isn't Oregon pursuing offshore wind energy? In my opinion, the much maligned Oregon Department of Energy should be tasked with work with regional utility and energy companies to develop a viable plan to meet the Oregon legislature's energy vision. Thank you very much. Goodbye.